I'm Bill McWilliam, president of Cascadero Copper, CCD on the TSX Venture Exchange. Cesium is one of the world's rarest metals with a growing industrial demand. Drilling is underway on our Tehran property in Argentina to prove up a cesium resource. Cascadero's patent-pending leach process has the potential to make Cascadero the lowest cost supplier of cesium in the world. Visit our website, cascadero.com, or phone us at 604-924-5504.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sean Brodrick. He's senior editor at WeissRatings.com. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks very much for having me on.
The big topic on both sides of the border right now, President Trump threatening to slap massive tariffs on steel and aluminum. How's that playing out in the market?
Well, first everyone was panicked, and then the market started to get hope that the Republicans would actually buck President Trump on this, and so he wouldn't get his way, especially when his Commerce Secretary has reportedly threatened to quit over this whole thing. So we saw the futures rally hard this morning, but now everything's pretty much flat. I think the market is waiting to see what happens, waiting to see who wins, because maybe Trump will win, maybe the pro-trade people will win. The thing about the tariffs is he's going to yank the tariffs much higher on steel and aluminum. Across the board, that's the thing that's, worrisome. And we know he did this because he's angry at China and he thinks that they take advantage of us in these trade deals, which they do. They are terrible about that. They also steal intellectual property. There's a lot of things China does badly. However, raising steel tariffs is not the way to hit them. China isn't even in the top 8 suppliers of international steel to the United States, because during the Obama administration, we hit them with steel tariffs anyway because they were dumping. So that pretty much dried up what they send us. So, I don't know who is going to win. However, I do know that President Trump, when he says he's going to do something, he tries very hard to make sure he gets it done. And so I would say the odds favor him actually getting these steel tariffs. The Republicans say no, but I haven't seen them grow a spine lately. I can't imagine them standing up to him on this. So, maybe there'll be a pleasant surprise and they will, but I think they won't, and I think that some form of those tariffs will go through. So, what form they will take in the end, God knows, but I am actually positioning my subscribers with the idea that those steel tariffs will go through. But a lot of other people, my general advice on this would be that if you're not trading it professionally, you don't have to trade it. Just keep your head down and wait and see which way the chips fall. There will always be time to make money on this later. And, it's really, really hard to gauge what's going to happen in Washington, D.C. right now. Volatility, randomness, chaos, all these things feed into it. So it's hard to say, these are the facts on the ground, and so here's what's going to happen. No. There's a lot of emotion into it, a lot of misinformation on the part of some very powerful people who believe things that just aren't true. And so I don't know how it's going to shake out. I do know that we've seen the U.S. dollar go on a roller coaster ride, and now it's down today because people are saying, my God, a trade war. The U.S. there are no winners in a trade war, but that'll only hurt the U.S. currency. And so that's why we are seeing gold go higher because of that today. Will that be the case tomorrow? That's hard to say.
How much of a factor is the value of the U.S. dollar and the price of gold?
It's probably the biggest driver of it now. And, and so that's really kind of the big thing is when we see the U.S. dollar roll over, if we don't see gold take off, something's wrong in the gold market. However, it's performing perfectly right now. It has this, in fact, I usually post a chart showing how they move, and it's really in sync lately. One goes up, the other goes down. And so yeah, they are tied very closely together.
When people are buying gold, should they also then keep a very close watch on the currency charts?
I do. And right now it looks like the U.S. dollar could go lower. It looks like it rolled over. It barely got above that peak in February, just to throw all the chartists off because it seemed to be making a new high, and then it turned around and reversed, and it had an outside bearish candle for those market technicians among you, and that was 4 days ago, and it's just been decelerating lower ever since. This is bullish for gold. This could be very good for gold. So now we have to go down and we have to test that low from February. What happens there, I don't know. If this is a range-bound market, it'll bounce, but if it's not range-bound, then we could see the U.S. dollar go lower.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after the break.
Cyprus Development Corp's flagship lithium project is located just east of Albemarle's Silver Peak mine in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. A 12-hole exploration drill program for lithium-enriched claystone on Cyprus's 100% controlled properties is now underway. Cyprus Development Corp trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the Pink's CYDVF, and on Frankfurt's C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cyprusdevelopmentcorp.com.
Glance Technologies owns and operates Glance Pay, a disruptive mobile payment technology now live in 16 cities in Canada and about to launch in the US. With revenues up 664% in the last quarter, Glance Technologies has the potential to be a worldwide leader in an industry projected to grow to $1.3 trillion in 3 years. Glance Technologies stock symbols are GLNFF in the US and GET in Canada. Find out more at glancepay.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, President Trump took credit for the U.S. stock market gaining value after he was elected. Do you think he would take the credit if it plunges because he wants to put tariffs on?
No, I'm sure that'll be someone else's fault. And, I don't know what he's going to say. Don't ask me to explain how things work in there. I do know that there is chaos in the White House and that people, when they quit those jobs, they seem extremely relieved. So I'm not sure what's going to go on there. I do think that he wants to take credit for the good things that happen. And there are good things that can happen. For example, North Korea is now making overtures like maybe it doesn't need nuclear weapons anymore. And so it wants some kind of reassurances and South Korea and all that stuff. I think some part of that has to be, you have to give credit to President Trump because he was acting so crazy and so who knows what the heck he was going to do with North Korea. That must have scared the North Koreans into maybe seeking an alternative. So I'm not saying that he doesn't accomplish good things. What I'm saying is what he's doing with the market right now is not what you want to do when you want an economy to run smoothly.
Well, it was also pointed out in an interview that I saw, 6.5 million Americans use steel products to make new products that they sell to the rest of the world. 400,000 Americans actually produce steel. So in terms of economic impact, tariffs would have a huge negative impact on the U.S. economy. Well,
yes and no. I mean, it depends on where those price increases will be absorbed in the supply chain. And, it wouldn't be a bad thing entirely to see the half dozen or so U.S. steelmakers actually get some kind of support. But the one who's been really dumping is South Korea. So why aren't we focusing on them? And also when it comes to cars, because I know President Trump was complaining about cars, South Korea dumps cars on us all the freaking time. Why aren't we having a trade battle with South Korea? They never even get mentioned. So what I'm saying is that this steel and aluminum tariff seems really not well thought out. It seems like they're trying to accomplish something, but they're using the wrong tools to do it. And if you use the wrong tools, the chance of you accomplishing whatever your end goal is actually kind of low. It will accomplish something, just not exactly what you want it to do.
I also would imagine that the steel and aluminum companies in Canada are owned by Americans.
Well, I don't really know that. I mean, I have spent the last week or so looking very deeply into U.S. steel companies because that's one group that will do very well if these steel tariffs move ahead. U.S. steel manufacturers could do very well indeed. There will be winners and losers in this. U.S. steel would be one example of one that could do very well. One that will lose is U.S. automakers because so much of what they buy is imported. And so that'll be kind of problematic for them. But in a way that's good for the U.S. automakers because they've been kind of cruising on fumes anyway, and they were going to have a sales downturn. Now they'll have something to blame it on, rather than, people are just sick of buying our cars and they can't afford to buy them anymore. Now they'll blame the steel tariff. So I guess that's kind of a win-win there.
Well, also aluminum, they were saying, folks, if Trump goes ahead with tariffs on aluminum, it's going to increase the price of your beer by 6%. Maybe that gets
yeah, it's like 1.5 cents a can. I mean, is that 6%? Maybe if you drink really cheap beer. But on the other hand, the people that make beer could then jack prices up by 6%, saying, well, we have higher input costs. And then they will pocket the difference. So that could absolutely happen.
Yes, and again, when you tell the average guy your beer prices are going up, would that affect their vote?
Yeah, again, I don't know. I do know that President Trump is bulletproof on many subjects that would sink another politician. He just kind of keeps on going through. I mean, the man has multiple scandals per week that would be the end of any other politician. I somehow don't think that these tariffs, no matter how they work out, will actually be the undoing of him. I just can't imagine that.
Where are you going to get the steel and aluminum to build that giant wall with Mexico?
Well, we'll just make it out of Adobe.
Which is good.
I mean, we were going to get the Mexicans to pay for it anyway, right? So, I don't know. The whole wall thing, don't even get me started on the southern wall. Let me tell you, I go down to Mexico fairly regularly. There are no harder working people on earth. And Mexico is booming. Despite the problems with the cartels and stuff like that, Mexico is a booming economy. And we actually have negative migration over the southern U.S. border, even though they don't want to admit to that, because that's where jobs are. The last time I was in Mexico, we were in a very fancy restaurant. The guy who was waiting on our table was from Houston, Texas. He was Mexican, born in Texas, but had moved back to Mexico because he got a really good job there. That is just one anecdote. That isn't hard evidence of like anything, but I'm just saying the wall is the wrong approach to whatever the hell they're trying to solve there, and I'm not even going to get into that. Let's talk about other things. Let's talk about gold and cannabis. Both of those are looking great, by the way.
Okay, we'll chat about those right after this.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Magnum Gold Corp. Inc., MGI on the TSX Venture Exchange. A 2015 drill program on the LH property intersected high-grade gold, including 16.9 meters of 13.58 grams and 11 meters of 20.66 grams per ton gold. A follow-up drill program is planned to further evaluate previously identified subsurface high-grade gold mineralization. Please visit our website at magnumgoldcorp.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. What kind of opportunities do you see in gold?
I see all sorts of opportunities. The gold stocks in my portfolios are rocketing higher. And of course you don't want to judge things on just one day, but the last few days have actually been very good, where they would sell off in the morning, rise in the afternoon. That's a classic accumulation by the big money. They love to pick things up like that. And also we started to see the gold miners start to outperform gold itself. And again, that's classic market bottom stuff right there. So really, if you find a producer that has, good management, is lowering costs, and has blue sky on its resources, I think that could be a winner.
Do you think gold companies have become a lot leaner than they were before the crash?
I know they have. I mean, I've been out there visiting these companies and stuff. They are getting smarter, and some of them, it seems like they have to go kicking and screaming to be introducing 21st century technology into their minds. Others just grab onto it and run. So that's another thing you can look for. But the last few mines that I have been to, they've been making huge strides technologically, which is really making them much more efficient.
What's been the big difference in efficiency?
Well, for one thing, they use computerization. I mean, there was one silver mine that the first time I went there, when they wanted to put lime into the process, which is something you have to do. You know, there would just be a guy who would grab a bag, cut it open, and just scoop it out, and that's not efficient at all. Now they have machines that add exactly what they need in the process, exactly when they need it, and the exact amounts. And also, there are new mills coming into play. I've only seen 2 mines that have this yet. These new vertical mills. They're called what? HIG? I can't remember the exact name. Anyway, they're much more efficient than the old ones. And so we'll start to see more and more of those. And then just the regular computerization, which speeds up the whole process and makes everything much more efficient that way. And of course, they have the new equipment that allows them to have a much better scope of what's in the rock, you know. So they aren't really drilling blind at all anymore. Now they really know what they're going into. Or at least, well, that depends on the kind of deposit, but let's not get into that. So there's a whole bunch of great progress that has been made in mining. It's not reflected in the price. Many of these things are priced for rock bottom. And so I think, there's a great opportunity for these to go higher, especially when you look, for example, hedge funds last Friday were the most short on silver that they've ever been. Ever. And so what does that tell you? That means that they've all leaned to one side on silver. And so as silver starts to go up, because it usually rides up along with gold, what are the hedge funds going to have to do? They're going to have to cover. We could see a violent move to the upside in things like silver simply because of all the speculation that, it appears anyway, turned out to be wrong.
In the marijuana space, you're very positive about that.
Yeah, well, I just recommended my subscribers buy Cannabis Wheaton, Canopy Growth. Sorry about that. Which is, you know, that's a big enchilada of marijuana up in Canada, right? And then in my monthly newsletter, I have 2 other marijuana stocks. We got into those a little early, but they're positive now, and boy, are they rocketing. Let's see. Hang on a second. So I think what we're seeing here is that we are starting to see anticipation enter the market for when Canada does recreational legalization later this year. It isn't going to be July 1st anymore. It's going to be a little later for that, but that doesn't matter. The fact is it's coming. We see people lining up for that. So I think Canadian cannabis stocks are a great place to be putting money to work right now. Of course, I am talking my own book because personally, I bought at least 10 of them today. And most of those are up. So, you know, I mean, it seems to be some kind of a bottom. Last year, for example, we saw those stocks really tip over in March and keep sliding lower until June, until everybody was sick of the cannabis stocks, and then they bounced along until July and they took off like a rocket. This year, they tipped over in January, slid lower until March. Now we're starting to see the bottoming process again. I don't know. I think when we get to April, we could really see these things taking off if history rhymes. As they say, history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. What that would tell us is just the cycle's picking up the pace a little bit, and you know I'm a cycle guy. And so I think we're in a virtuous cycle for the Canadian cannabis stocks, that's the way I'm playing it, and so far it's been right.
Some analysts have said that there's too much production of marijuana, although if they look at whenever it's been rolled out in the U.S., the first day there's lineups outside, they sell out, and there's a shortage. But in the long term, they think Canada is perhaps oversupplied by double. Any concerns about that?
In the long term, we're all dead. So in the short term, I think you can make some money here. Longer term, of course, you don't want to buy all the Canadian cannabis producers. However, I think it's highly likely there's going to be consolidation in that space. And not only with one cannabis company buying another, but say a large beverage company, let's say global beverage company taking positions in these cannabis companies looking toward the future. We already saw that last year. That's what happened with Canopy Growth when they received a big injection from a U.S. beverage firm. I think that kind of thing could be repeated, and we should see the larger fish in the pond scoop up the smaller fish anyway. So I think that's the kind of thing we'll be seeing. And so, yeah, you can talk about overvaluation. They're just entering production. There's no rational reason to support these like price ratios. You can say all that. And you are right to a certain extent. However, there is the fact that momentum and psychology are most of a market. And it seems like the momentum is coming back to these stocks, and if the psychology follows, which is what I'm thinking will happen, then you will see these stocks take off again big time. And so, yeah, there are stocks that can be scooped up. They have good stories. Look for the ones with look for those stocks with good management that don't have to go back and raise money all the time, and try and pick up those stocks you think might be on the shopping list of other companies, because those are the ones that can really give you a quick return there. And so that's been my strategy so far. Last year we did very well with it. Hope to do the same again this year.
Sean, thank you so much for chatting with us.
It's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
My guest has been Sean Brodrick, Senior Editor at WiseRatings.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter at HowStreet. Any questions for the show or our guests can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. By the way, you can also check out our YouTube channel at Talk Digital Network. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.